This week, I find a whole new reason to dread high school anime.
And I try to take this umbrella down the stairs as fast as I can. Here I go. No, no, no! I'm Kyle.
And I'm Garrett, and we watch anime.
Garrett, this week is our special Halloween episode. Whoa. So in order to truly represent the season, I have tried to find an anime that, for the most part, is considered one of the best horror animes out there. This week we are doing an anime that is part detective anime with slice of life mixed with Final Destination murder. We are going to be discussing the horror death anime, Another. But before we begin, Garrett, what are new fans going to be expecting from this anime?
The Japanese Devon Sawa.
Like idle hands and stuff like that? Are we going in that deep of a cut?
Was Devon Sawa not the lead in the original Final Destination?
Oh no, you're right, but he was also the lead in Idle Hands. Don't worry, that's not going to date us at all for this podcast.
Yes.
So, Garrett,
but it has nothing to do with Little Giants.
No, it does not. So this show today is going to be Another, is the name of the show. And it was actually a novel. It was first a book written by Yukitu Ayatsuji, a member of the famous Honkaku mystery writers of Japan, which I'll explain more about that later. But it became a manga in 2010, and the anime was shot for only 12 episodes from 2012 all the way pretty much throughout the year. So it's a very short 12-episode, small snippet, anime that starts and ends, and it ends on its own pieces. But Garrett, just give me a quick thought of what did you think about this show this week?
It was interesting. Before I started watching the episodes, you sort of gave me a heads up and you said, hey, you can't do 3 or 4 episodes. You got to do a few more because they're really sort of trying to drag the storyline and pace it very slowly. So I was prepared for that. I know you came across it first and you had your issues with it. But I thought it was actually quite interesting. And, I made the comment in my opening statement about Devon Sawa and about Final Destination. And in a way, for those of you who, I don't know, how many of those movies did they make? 4 or 5 at that
At
point?
least 5, because I know the 4th one was the special
3D.
choose your own adventure one, which was really weird.
Right.
But, and I think they did one more after that.
So in a way, it definitely has that vibe to it.
Mm-hmm.
But like most things, because it's not a movie that has to be tied up in an hour and a half, it gets to be a little bit more creepy and a little bit more intricate in the details.
Mm-hmm.
So, I thought it was pretty cool. And I kept watching it late at night, and I didn't have any nightmares. Not that I normally do. But, I thought it was good.
Yeah, I agree. And I will preface it with this, and I think it's important to say. When I first watched the first 3 episodes, this show straight up pissed me off. In the first episode, from there to the second and third episode, it was obviously trying to be coy with its pacing, is what I say. It was just trying really hard to not tell you anything. And then eventually that ended up annoying me until it got about to 5, 6 episodes in. And then I realized what it was trying to do was it was not so much a horror anime as it was a detective anime, horror elements to it. And then I started to like it. So it was basically it annoyed the heck out of me for the first half. And then the last 2/3 of it, I was really actually happy to watch it. But
yeah, it's like Sherlock Holmes meets Friday the 13th.
Yes,
detective meets horror.
Yes, exactly. And I think that what's really also interesting is that I watched the whole thing through, so I'm trying to not spoil anything for you this episode. But Garrett, you got to episode 8, the famous, famous, or should I say, infamous beach episode for some reason that's in this horror detective anime. But
right.
My first question to you, Garrett, is: was this show scary?
It's creepy.
Yeah.
And I do recall there was my wife was in the other room, and again, we've already given away that it's horror, we've given away that it's creepy, we've said Final Destination. There's multiple deaths, and some of them really I remember the first death that I saw, I was on the couch and I remember going, oh, they just did that. They did that. So
they do some really messed up stuff in the show.
So I wasn't scared, but I was just like, Jesus Christ.
Jeez, Japan, what are you doing to me, man? So I think for me, it was creepy. I think for a lot of it, it was creepy. It's just like we had when we talked about Parasite the Maxim. It's like it's creepy. It uses atmosphere a lot. It uses like things that should be innocent, like a young girl with an eye patch and in like a dark hospital will be creepy, as opposed to like a big monster that you're gonna be chased around with. So
right, and they're trying to be unsettling.
Right. And it's so unsettling, but kind of obvious about it, because weirdly enough, like another thing that annoyed me in the first couple episodes was that they just kept randomly showing dolls for like no reason.
Oh,
it was
the
like,
blonde one without the arm?
Yeah, a bunch of them. Like it'd be like, hi, who are you talking about this time? And it was like, doll. And then it was like, oh yeah, I'm talking about my aunt, my mom. She died when I was young. Doll. And I was
it's like they thought it was a really artsy cutscene.
I know. And I'm like, stop showing the goddamn dolls, you know? Like, stop doing that, man. And I also think what's really annoying to me about this show is when I say like obnoxiously coy with it, is that a lot of this story could have ended like right away if people just straight up said what was happening to the main character Sakikabara at any point, right? Like they're like, because everybody's going like, I should tell you something, but I'm not going to tell you something. Ooh, am I alive or am I not alive? I exist, but I don't exist. And it's a lot of that for the first 3 episodes. And I was just like, get to the point. Now that's the only bitching I'm going to do in this episode, but that really annoyed me when I was watching it.
All right. I'm picking up on everything you're saying. However, I'm sure half of what you said just flew over the head of the audience that might not have watched it yet.
Right.
So allow me to give a little bit of a background.
Of course. So yeah, set up the show? What's it about?
So the show is centered around this character named Koichi.
Yeah.
Koichi-san, Koichi-kun.
Koichi, yeah. Sakikabara.
Koichi. I'm going to get it. Give me 4 years and I'll be saying these names correctly.
Right. This show was brought to you by Duolingo. No, I'm just kidding.
Duo says Koichi lives in Yomayama. So Koichi is a teen student. He's entering 9th grade, which is unlike in America, where 9th grade is usually the first year of high school. It's the final year of middle school in Japan, or at least that's what the show tells me. Right. And he's from Tokyo, but his father is a traveling businessman. He's in India right now trying to do a deal. So his mother has passed when he was born, essentially. And so his father sends him to his aunt, his mother's sister, as well as the grandparents in Yomayama, which is sort of this it seems very country, very rural prefecture. It's certainly not modern in any way, shape, or form. And he's going to be spending maybe only a year in this school while his father's job takes him abroad. And immediately stuff gets weird.
Right.
Well,
the first thing to say about Sakikabara is that the reason why
it's Koichi Sakikabara.
Is that he had a collapsed lung. And his dad, who's very cavalier on the phone about pretty much everything, like, Dad, people are dying. And he's like, man, it's really hot in here in India, that kind of stuff. And he's also like, yeah, son, my lung collapsed twice. Once you get past the second one, it's just smooth sailing.
Yeah, he's like, I didn't want you to think it was genetic, but it is.
He's really cavalier about like very serious issues. And I thought that was a little off-putting, but yeah, go ahead.
So when he's in the hospital, he comes across this girl who's walking through the hospital with this sad, dead-looking doll wearing an eye patch, and her name is Mei Misaki. And she says she's on her way to visit her friend, and this is very clearly going to be the creepy lead of the show. And these two are going to have some sort of interplay with one another going down the road. So Koichi goes to school, and he immediately gets introduced to his classmates, and everything is very strange. Now, he's in this class called Class 3. I imagine in the 9th grade, there's, depending on the number of students in the school, there's 5 classes. And if there's, 30 kids per class, 150 kids, then divvy them up. This is Class 3.
Or unless they went to my school, in which it was A team and B team, and B team was obviously like mine, where we kind of like considered the dum-dums of the 6th grade class.
Right. So, so the whole show takes place in 1998.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay?
it's very clear about it's time when it's happening.
Right. Yeah, because they have cell phones, but it's very much like the beginning of cell phones.
Right. It's like the Nokia, like you can only get Snake on your phone time.
Right.
Like,
Right. Which I kind of like because it means they're not going to rely on it out of crutch. Whenever I see
right.
something now that, whenever I see any movie or TV show throughout history that relies on technology for a plot point,
Hmm.
inevitably it will become dated. I
Right.
mean, you look
Exactly.
at like, I love this movie, but you look at like War Games with like
Right.
Matthew Broderick,
Would you
and you're
like
like,
to play
holy
a game?
crap.
Yeah. But like, what is interesting about the school that he goes to, Yomiyama Middle School, is that they don't like they don't set up a really good opinion of what public school is too. That's the first thing I noticed. It was like, oh man, why would you leave Tokyo and your private school to go to this like bumpkin public school? It's like, oh
Right.
God, get off it, Japan.
Oh, but I mean, you can imagine like there's something about like there's always intrigue about other. You could be in New York City, and if a cowboy from Texas moved there, they might be made fun of, or they might be the
Mm-hmm.
coolest kid in school because they're different. And the same thing, like I would travel places across the country and go into bars, and once you said you were from New York, you
Yeah,
know, all of a sudden you were interesting because New
right.
York, I've never been to New York, you know?
Right, exactly. But it was just interesting because I'm like, are they setting up the public schools is the real evil of the show? Because you go to this class, just to kind of get back on it, is the class when he shows up, he's like, "Hi, my name is Koichi Sakikabara. I'm excited to meet you all." And all the kids are just like miserable as heck in this class. They're just like the whole time he's there. And no one's staring at the very obviously creepy girl in the back of this class who has an eye patch and has scratches all over her desk, and they're just staring forward, trying hard not to look back at her. So, but
Well,
yeah,
and that's where this show kind of tricked me. So that girl, that creepy girl in the back of class is May.
mm-hmm,
May Misaka.
mm-hmm.
And what I couldn't figure out for a little while is I thought she was dead.
Me too. The first 3 episodes, they were trying to play that off the whole.
And that Kookaburra, not to be confused
Sits
with
in the old
not to be confused with Outback's Kookaburra wings.
Who sits in the old gum tree? Left, Kookaburra left. No, sorry.
So I thought she was dead.
I thought so too. And you
then
know what?
All of a sudden you find out that that's not the case.
But she's like the girl that likes being thought that she's dead more than anything because she's like, she's always whispering. That's the first thing. She's
Right.
always in the most craziest places, like going
Like
down
a doll store.
She lives in a creepy doll store, and she outwardly says, "I don't exist." And like,
Right.
she's either one of two things. She's either dead or the weirdest girl at school, and you should probably
Right.
stay away from both of those scenarios.
Right. And so another thing that sort of drives that point home is while Koichi can interact with her, seemingly no one else is. So that's when I started to question, like, is this
Right.
someone that only he can see?
Right, right.
But it turns out that something really, really tragic happened at this school 26 years previously in class 3, where a student died. And when this student died, it sort of created this charm. Charm usually having a positive connotation. Nothing about this is positive.
Is that all charming?
It's like a curse has been placed onto class 3. But the also really creepy librarian says it's not a curse. That hippie with the long hair that might as well be making you like a chai foam latte.
And who has some really interesting stories about Nam. That's what he looks like, you know? He is probably the creepiest part of the show, is like the random dude with the gray hair and the glasses who acknowledges the creepy girl, and it's like, yeah, you can be in the library whenever you want. Come on in, you know, like that kind of stuff.
So 26 years previous, there was this murder, and now all of a sudden this class 3 is cursed, and every year at some point someone in the class or someone within 2 steps away from a class member dies, and it sets off sort of these dominoes, and some years it's 2 or 3 deaths, some years it's like 15 deaths.
Yeah.
So my first question to you is, why didn't you knock down the damn school?
That's the first thing I thought. So let's just go through the logic, and then you and I can kind of step in and talk about, like, at any point you could have stopped this thing, because that's another thing that annoyed me. Like the coyness we'll get to again, because it still annoyed me, is the fact that no one cares about these kids' lives at all. Like there's so many
not
things.
Just the kids, regular people die.
Everybody, their family members, everybody. Like it kills not just people, but like the kids in the class, but the family members around it, like at least 2 generations out. And you know what's even crazy about it is that it's accidental death. It's not deaths in which a monster is going to come visit you, in which you think you can face something. It's like the most random accidental deaths that happen for the most craziest reasons. So the first thing, okay, so this curse happened because, as you said, they had a really popular kid that died. And instead of saying, well, this kid's dead, let's mourn him, they literally left his desk empty and said, no, he's still alive. Look, his desk is right there. Just look at him. He's still alive. And they just kept that ruse up for so long.
Well, which, by the way, for that first year, I kind of get. Mm-hmm. You leave the desk empty in honor of him. Mm-hmm. You let him graduate with you in honor of him. I get it.
In honor, don't say he's still there, right? Like these are
that's
kids.
True. Also, another thing the show does that confuses me is that was a boy who died whose name was Misaka Misaki. It was the same name as the city, Yomiyama. So his name was Misaki Yomiyama.
Right.
And the female lead is Mei Misaki. And I'm like, I'm sure you're going to get to it. Really upset that you made it the same as someone from a different country trying to watch it and not get confused with things.
So the first thing they could have done is been normal about the fact that this kid's dead. That's the first thing they could have done. Could have stopped the whole thing right there. The second thing is the reason why these classes have these calamities happen is because a dead student comes to class and no one notices it. Mm-hmm. Now, here's the thing. I get it. Like, they mess with your memories. They mess with the log books. There's no reason to, like, think that this person's a dead person or whatever. But they never once go, like, let's just not have class here, you know? Or, like, let's not have this school. But, like, I think about COVID right now and, like, our reality of, like, what we have to do to make sure kids don't catch COVID. If there's literally a thing that kills 7 kids a year on average – with like in one class, just like you said, I would burn that school down and I would say, don't touch the ashes. Don't pretend that the kids are still there. Like, don't do it.
Literally other high schools in the city. Just divvy up the high school and send everyone else.
Right. It's like, I mean, America does it all the time for budgetary reasons. I'm sure that you can find.
Because according to the non-veteran librarian, they've opened up the portal to death. He's like, there's no malice in it. It's just the portal to death. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. Could you go over that again, non-vet? It's like, and that's the, and then another thing that annoys me is that, like, they keep trying, they allow the kids to be the solution to the problem. So they have this class member called the countermeasures class.
Why are children being given so much responsibility?
Yeah, you figure out why you keep dying kids who are in 9th grade, which in this country would be what? 14?
Yeah.
And that's another thing. It's like, this school just does not care. It's just like, oh, it's the thing that happens here, and it's just annoying.
And you're not supposed to talk about it outside of the class.
Right. And you got to 8, so, you know, we're not going to go too far in spoiler territories. Like, we're not going to say who the another is. We're not going to say what the solution to the problem is. We're not going to say any of that stuff. But way the school figured out how to fix it was they wanted to, in order for them to make the class number meet so that the dead person, you know, it doesn't start the calamity, is you pretend that one of the students doesn't exist. Now, that just shows you how screwed up over the past 26 years this problem has gotten, that they're just going to say, you don't exist. We're going to ignore you. You're basically like in Tevye, in Fiddler on the Roof, we're going to, like, completely shun you off into the middle of nowhere. You're going to keep them in class, though.
This method only has a 50% success rate.
It's like, what are we doing, guys? This could have been... And then another thing that, like, it's just like, oh my God, this is like I said, this show actually I liked past a certain point. This is just getting to the wall of the parts that annoy me. Right. So Sakikibara, so basically the bad thing has happened already before Sakikibara got to the school. Meaning they were already kind of started the year, and he's the new guy in. So already now you're above the number of kids that are supposed to be in this class, and you have the one student that you're supposed to not pay attention to. If that's the rule, even if it's a 50-50 chance, maybe you should just tell the kid. That it's actually
Right. Well, so the issue is Mei Misaka, the one that is
the creepy girl who lives in a dollhouse.
This is, you find out that she's not actually dead, but at the beginning of the school year, the classroom has a discussion and says, look, we have another, hence the name of the show,
right,
person who's not supposed to be here because they're actually dead. Creepy. So, so we're all going to select someone that we're going to pretend isn't here. And I think she pretty much steps up to the plate because she's weird anyway.
She's weird anyway. She was like, had zero problem with that. Oh, you're going to just ignore me? I live in this dreary space
and they
anyway.
even discuss in previous years how they had one boy who took the title of being the, the ignored one, and everything was fine. And halfway through the semester, he like caved under the pressure and was like, recognize me. And then like 20 people died.
Yeah. And so there was just like a lot of things that could have been done differently in every way, shape, or form.
To answer your question, the reason why they don't tell him about May is because before they get a chance to, he's already spoken to her at the hospital and I think on the roof of the school.
Right.
So he's already made the recognition.
Right.
So it's really too late to tell him to pretend this person doesn't exist in their eyes. And
then, so here's the thing. They do the whole explanation. To me, it's kind of like a speak away of the whole story. Like, oh, well, we could have told you, but this is the thing. And I'm like, okay, I get that. But when life and death's on the line, like, you could have been a little bit more clear with me. Just be like, I know this is weird, but just don't talk to that girl. Just don't do that. Just don't talk to the weird girl. It's all you have to not do. Don't look at her. Don't talk to her. Don't do that. Well, I'll explain everything later. Just don't do it. And they didn't do it. But of course, because the show has to happen in its own way, the horror begins. And the calamity happens anyway. So tell me how the death happens. At least we get introduced to our first death of the show with one of the class representatives with the cute orange-haired girl with the glasses.
With dude, this is brutal.
I know this shocked you. It shocks everybody who watches it. So
this girl with the glasses and the brunette reddish hair, whose name I sadly don't remember, because as an outsider, there was no name in the show that I was like, oh, this is an easy one, except May.
Right.
Outside of that, and I think his aunt's name is Reiko, and his mother's name was Ritsuko. But anyway,
I'm gonna look this up while you talk. Yeah,
she's in class one day, and our lead is in the hallway. Was he with the librarian?
He was with the librarian and May.
May. And they're in the hallway talking, and this girl with glasses is in class, and
her name's Ai. By the way, just to let you all know, her name's Ai Nonoka. Just in case you want to know.
Ai Nonoka.
Yeah.
Someone comes to class, like someone calls the school and probably says like, "Oh, tell Ai that her mother wants her to come home for lunch," or something like that. And I believe it was probably her being notified that her mother died, but she runs out of the classroom. And as soon as she steps out of the classroom, she goes to go to the stairs, but she sees Koichi there, and
it scares her.
Probably because she knows bad news is on the way, and he and May are already a bad omen. So she runs the other way. She's carrying an umbrella, and she slips and falls forward down the stairs. And however the umbrella lands, it impales her through her throat and comes out the back of her neck.
Yeah, and it opens up too, so it's kind of like at the bottom of the stairs when he watches her, it's like an open umbrella with her just like, like, I was just like, that's crazy. Oh my God, what is this show? And then the first thing you got to notice that this umbrella is meant for murder. It's a penguin umbrella. This umbrella is meant for sword fights and for penguins like deeds against Batman. It has the like thinnest, sharpest end, and I'm like, why would you take that one? If you knew death is upon you, stop running with sharp objects. And it's just like just a lot of people that do dumb things in this show. And I think it's just like when you watch Final Destination or any horror movie, you're like, people make dumb ideas when they do these kind of things.
Yeah. It's
So
like when you yell at the screen, don't run in there, because you should not run in there.
right, you shouldn't run in there, right? And another thing that was really annoying, so to go into the Final Destination-ness of the show, first thing I'd say is that the Final Destination-ness was pretty irregular in my mind. Like, you start with the umbrella in the neck, and that's just gnarly. That is like heavy metal level of Final Destination stuff.
Yeah.
Right? Then a kid dies from a heart attack, and you're just like, oh, okay, if you're going to do...
Because he was about to tell the truth.
Right. The person... I'm going to tell you about it.
So
Brett Sanford's in the middle of the street.
So now that this girl has died with the umbrella, the student who's in charge of countermeasures is like, all right, the calamity has begun.
Right.
So here's how we're going to fight this off. She gathers all her classmates and she says, we can't just pretend that May isn't there. We're going to pretend that Koichi isn't there, therefore trying to lower the class by 1 in order to get to the appropriate number, which doesn't really make sense to me because it just killed someone off. So I would think
none of this logic makes sense in my mind. Like it should, but it doesn't.
So Koichi asked 2 of like his buddies in class to walk home with him, and they're not supposed to. But this is new to them. They made friends with him. They were just asked to not talk to him, and they're like, I guess what's the hurt? We'll walk home with him.
Right.
So they're walking home with him, and there's this one really meek character, and he won't say anything. And Koichi's like, come on, guys, just tell me. Like, tell me. It's fine. I'll understand. Tell me. And this kid who we've already heard in like a previous episode has like heart issues. Yeah. He's like, you know what? This isn't right. I'll answer any question you want. You know what the answer is?
He's like,
like a gust of wind comes, and he
like the happening
with a heart attack.
Which is like, which is irregular to me, right? If you're going to Final Destination, go all Final Destination.
Right.
Don't give me like a gnarly umbrella accident followed by like a routine heart attack and then do something else. That was just like, it was just so irregular to me. And then the second thing that was crazy to me is that the amount of people who leave construction equipment in the most random of hills and in the most peculiar of situations. I'm like, if you know this is going to happen, stop leaving heavy machinery on hills. Just stop doing it. Stop leaving your windows open, or your like glass windows on the truck. Stop doing it, folks. Like, I would be like, construction is done for the rest of the year today. You have from like December to April to build houses, and then you're done. It was just like, a lot of that stuff. I was like, come on, guys.
So Koichi, and to speak to how you said, even though it's quite murdery, how it's a detective mystery, he wants to sort of start unraveling the truth, because throughout all of this, he's still not getting answers.
None.
They're just dying around him, and he's being told nothing.
And May is the worst of it. The person who's supposed to be like on his side, the creepy girl, is saying nothing. She's more than useless in terms of information, and for several reasons. The first is that everything that she does has to be like freaking coy. Like, she lives in a dollhouse, which is creepy enough as it is. But then she's like, do you want to know what's under my eye patch? And she's like about to show it. And you think there's like a mouth in there, right? You think there's like a worm going like coming out of it.
It's the hand from Parasite.
Right. And then she like opens it up and it's just a different colored eye. And I'm like, screw you, May. Screw you.
It's a doll's eye. Because her mom, when she lost her eye from a tumor when she was 4, said that a artificial eye wouldn't look as pretty, so her mom gave her a doll's eye. Now, so what I was saying is to lean into sort of the detective mystery of this, is he does have one person on his side, and it's a nurse from the hospital that he's befriended, who took care of him and kept calling him Mr. Horror Mystery, because I guess he liked reading books about horror mystery. But she's trying to find out all these answers too. Now, remember I said earlier that death can happen within 2 steps of, so if you're the student, it
the parent, the grandparent.
It could happen to your parents. It could happen to
the grandparents.
It's someone within 2 steps of the student. At
your sisters, brothers, all that stuff,
Right. So this nurse happens to have a younger sibling at the school with him. And she starts turning the screws on him and asking him questions. and he really creeps her out with not wanting to tell her and saying we can't talk about that. So she calls Koichi up to say, look, this is what I found. I'm trying to get down to the bottom of this mystery. And then her elevator falls and crushes her to her death.
Right. And I'm just it swings. Like there's like one dies from an umbrella, then we have a heart attack, then we have someone who has like a crazy like accident in an elevator, and then like someone didn't have their asthma medication. It's like it just so vividly and we'll get back to the deaths in a bit, because I think it's still like, to me, like I think you gave it the respect it deserved. You were like, oh man, that's really messed up. This is a horror thing. I kind of laughed at a lot of them. Because I'm sick like that. I'm like, oh my god, that looks so crazy. And at the end, it gets even more like Benny Hill in my head was playing as a lot of the kids were dying, like, because they made like even more dumb decisions.
Which speaking of which, I know you just said Benny Hill for the absurdity of it, but that music, the intro music to this show is stupid.
It's really bad.
So, it's like the beginning of an action show. It's like, it doesn't fit.
I know.
The outro is like string plucky and creepy.
Yeah, I mean the outro did its job of like, you know.
Except the outro imagery is like all of the students in an Abercrombie and Fitch commercial.
Yeah,
with like flowing white shirts. And...
So that is, you know, there's a lot to complain about. I'm going to try to reserve it, because I do think for me, it was entertaining to a point, because once you realize it's a mystery, then it gets a lot more fun, right? Like if you're expecting this thing to scare you right away, just don't. It like, you know, it's going to have some shock and value to it. It's going to be kind of creepy, but it's really, really good as a mystery. Now, I told you before that the author of this anime, Yukito Ayatsuji, is a member of the Honkaku Mystery Writers of Japan. So this is a very, like, a unique...
That's ramen broth, right?
Yes, exactly. Honkaku. and he...
No disrespect. I'm sorry, everyone. That's tonkatsu.
So Honkaku is literally means orthodox. And it basically is a genre of mystery that sets up the mystery as a 3D puzzle for the reader to figure out. The word orthodox means that it runs by what's called fair play rules. And what that means is that all the clues are available to the reader to find out.
Well, that's the best type of mystery.
Right, exactly.
No one wants to watch TV. TV always does this because they have an editing room and they end up cutting out something really pertinent to the storyline in order to make it look sexier.
Right.
But when you're reading something, no one likes to be like, well, there was no chance I was going to guess that.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And I would say, because I watched all the way through, I thought the mystery aspect was satisfying in my mind. I was satisfied by what the ending ended up being. And these were very famous in the 1980s. And there's a lot of versions of books that do this thing, and another was one of them. And so once you get past the, like, once May is revealed to not be dead, once you get past that nonsense, it's actually really exciting. And it's actually scarier, the thrill of the mystery. And I found like I don't know if you got to the part where like they found a tape that explains how to end the thing.
No, but I imagine that's what that one guy kept saying. I left it in the classroom. I left it in the classroom for them.
Right, and it's that creepy of them like listening to like details get explained out away. I thought that was really cool and really atmospheric. It's very reminds me of the video game Fatal Frame. Like if you want to have nightmares as a 30-something-year-old man, play Fatal Frame 2, because it's freaking scary. And what tells the lore of the story are these like radio plays of all these ghosts like going like and it's wild. It's actually really scary. So you get through the course of the show is now trying to set up the idea that like Final Destination is going to happen, so you have to figure out what's going on with Final Destination before it ends. Like Final Destination is a horror movie because you're never going to figure it out. You're never going to solve Final Destination. This one actually has a solution to it, and I thought that was really cool. So what do you think about that idea for this? Did it more function for you as a mystery, or did it function for you more as a horror?
Well, I did like once the mystery was revealed to me that May was not dead, then I was like, oh, she and Koichi are like sidekicks. Right, exactly. You know, and they're going to figure this out together, even if he has to drag her along because she's giving nothing.
Nothing. Right.
And he'll be like, "Hey, what's 1+1?" And she's like, "Whispered something strange."
Yeah. It's like it's like bringing like a really crazy fan of like Tim Burton around. It's like, hey,
Yes, yes.
we take a left or right at the sign here. It's like gumdrops and wiggly doos, and the blue moon shines at night. Like it's like that kind of dynamic. And you're like, no, dude, but I really only asked left and right, and he goes, knock 3 times with the Jabberwocky, like that style of person. It's what May gives you.
I once that was revealed, I did sort of get into it. Of course, we mentioned that I reached episode 8, which is the obligatory but entirely unnecessary.
We have to talk about it, man.
Episode.
Yeah, we have.
So there's gonna be boobs.
Yeah.
Like, I guess necessary
with Sakikabara's hot aunt, which is really okay. So let's set up the episode. Yeah. So what's really crazy about this episode is that it starts with everybody being like, we learned from like 26 years of kids dying that if you leave Yomiyama, you're fine, right? You're safe from the curse.
So
right?
Why doesn't everyone leave?
So and that's what I'm saying. So they all go to summer vacation and everybody just like splits bills from the town. I don't blame them. They should have been gone the whole time. So
at what point after the first incident 26 years ago, at what year do you decide you're not putting your kid in that school? Like, you're just not going to take the chance and that they're going to end up in class 3. I mean, I know that they say the parents don't really know about it, but how?
Yeah, but how do you not, right? Like, how do you not know? And then what's crazy about it is that they start the episode by them being like, la, 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 we're going to the beach, and they're about to hit the border of Yomiyama to like leave, like you're about to leave it, and there's this like fuel truck driving right alongside them, and they're just like, ooh, this is how it's gonna happen. Ooh, ooh, and they're like, their buttholes are tensing up because they're like, ooh, ooh, it's coming, and then it goes, you've now left Yomiyama, and they're like, ah, we're safe. And then
and then the aunt starts driving recklessly
like a crazy person, like, yeah, I'll live forever, like that kind of stuff. And so then they have the obligatory beach episode. They do a lot of like weirdly fun stuff around death, like, oh no, don't do it, and you hear and red fly everywhere, and you're like, oh no, someone's dead again, and they open up a watermelon with a sledgehammer, a la, what's his name, Gallagher.
And so they go on vacation for 2 reasons. 1, you should go on vacation.
Yeah.
But 2, they're trying to follow a path because apparently this resort that they go to outside of the city, or not outside of the town, there's someone who was a student 15 years ago who was in class with Koichi's aunt who figured out how to stop it. But remember, this charm keeps messing with your memory. So it comes back to him, I stopped it, but then he'll be completely oblivious that even happened. Right. So they're trying to search this guy down, and they go to the resort, and when he's suddenly called away and they can't get a hold of him, that's when they're like, beach party! And then fine, go to the beach. Yeah. You need to give your anime fans some TNA, some well-drawn and crafted breasts. Yeah. Fine. I actually kind of enjoyed the weird parts where it was a watermelon exploding up. Here's what I didn't understand. Why was there a catch-your-own-food mini-game in the episode? They're like, we're going to grill on the beach. Oh, dividing into 2 teams, and we're going to catch. And then you would think, oh, okay, while someone's trying to fish for something, they're going to give us some close calls, some scares that maybe someone will die. And then they don't. So I don't understand why we did that.
And like, I know that like the idea that like if you buy your food in Yomiyama, that's what kills you, right? Like I'm not going to the Costco in Yomiyama, but you can still prepare a little bit for this day and have some food. It was just really weird. And it's like, it's interesting to set up May as this like creepy girl, to set up the like that she's kind of like weirdly like the death girl, but then like try to make her be the cute moe girl in the middle of it, like, oh, I don't like touching seaweed and all that stuff, and you're just like, what
while she's wearing like a Wednesday Addams type bathing suit.
and still wearing her what I assume to be paper eye patch on the whole day.
Right.
So
she is honestly the only girl that I've ever seen in an anime that looked like a 14-year-old girl should look like.
Yes, exactly. So, as you said, it sets up that death is coming still, and but they still have the beach episode. They're outside, so they feel a little good. And you said the fishing part should have been what killed people because they're fishing for food.
And sharks.
And so we thought we were out of the woods on this one. And then one of the characters goes, I need to hit, oh my God, I missed the beach ball. And it goes out to the ocean. And the kid swims out. La, 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 la.
Full stop. Before you get there, this kid was the least consequential person in the entire show.
Really?
His claim to fame of the past 7 episodes was he would appear once looking sulky, and then he gets car sick in the beginning of this episode.
Right, and that's
so
it.
He is of zero importance.
He is very much a throwaway character for this episode.
Right.
And he goes out, and he just, stops before the ball, and in a boat, for some reason, if you're driving a boat, folks, near a beach, slow down a little bit. You know what I'm saying?
You're supposed to be a certain
distance, you know? It's a literal no-wake area. This guy's just yeah, Mitt Romney, and nails this kid with a boat.
Wait, why are they saying Mitt Romney?
I would just assume this would be the Japanese version of a Romney.
Shinzo Abe. I don't know who the PM was in 1998. I can't be that topical.
Yeah, and he went through what it looks like he went through this washing machine of death, and he was just and swirls into death. And it was just, and you're like, oh yeah, we're back to doing this. Yeah, I forgot. That's what we were doing.
How much is a beach ball worth to you? And remember, guy, you are under the constant threat of death.
Let it go. I'm sure it's 100 or 200 yen at the most to get a new beach ball. Call it a day, man.
Right.
So, and so we're going to get to the point of, I think you got to a good point because things are going to start ramping up. You only got 4 episodes left.
Mm-hmm.
What are you hoping that you get out of it? What are some theories you have is one thing I want to know. Who do you think is the another in this situation? And what are some clues that led you there? So this first thing is are you going to keep watching? What are some things you're going to look forward to? But
at this point, I'm 2/3 the way through, and it ends after 12 episodes.
Right, so it's done.
There is no reason not to continue. The show is qualitatively, both visually and storyline, worth another hour and a half of my time.
Right,
so
exactly.
It's absolutely worth it. I'm going to do it. I will admit, I didn't find myself drawn in so much yet that I've really, or maybe I just didn't grasp it well enough that I've started hypothesizing who could be the dead person or the other, or what clues. We know that the countermeasure student, her big thing is dead people have really cold, clammy hands.
Right.
And then she disproves her own theory by saying, oh, but it would never be so obvious, right?
Right, exactly. Because another thing is that dead people in this world, it just will be like a normal person. And they won't even know that they're dead. They're not coming in going I'm the dead person, mwahaha, and twirling their mustache. They legit have no idea that they died. Right. And they're just kind of doing their thing. So do you have any theories, and what would lead you to that?
I think it would make sense that it would actually be May, because she actually enjoys being dead to everybody. But that doesn't follow your pretty sound logic of it's always the person you medium expect.
Yeah.
Because she's the person I most expect.
Right.
So medium expect, I don't think it's going to be the lead. If it is, that's just lazy
I think that would
writing.
be lazy too, right. I know the answers, and I think that would be lazy. Yeah.
So could it be someone we really haven't seen yet? Real quick, guys. Just want to flash back a second. We skipped to death. At one point, their teacher comes into class.
Oh, I'm sorry, we completely missed this. Go ahead, Garrett. We have to walk through this one as well. Go ahead.
So we're going to time out on my theories.
Okay.
So their teacher, kind of a, I don't know, heavy dude. His spirit is not a joyful spirit.
Why would you? If if this was your class, I'd be like, this is terrible. I hate it.
I might decide I don't need to be a part of the teachers union. I might not teach that class.
Right.
So he comes into school one day acting all melancholy, and he scares off the librarian. and is like, hey man, I gotta do what I gotta do. You'll understand. And it seems like he's carrying a bag
full
that
of
weighs
just everything.
8,000
The
pounds.
way it's shaking, it's like he's carrying like all of the tools, like
Right.
all of them, and it's
And
like
so-
chunk, chunk, chunk as he's walking.
So when he gets into class and he's clearly late and he's standing in front of everyone and he starts getting really dark, I'm like, oh, this is not going into a good place. And he starts reaching in there, and I really thought to myself, because this was done in 2012, I thought, are they really going to do a mass shooting here? Because if you think the weight of the bag, how he's rustling in it, he's pulling out weapons of some kind.
Right.
Some type of gun.
Right.
So he's got this super heavy bag, and he reaches in, and he pulls out a chef's knife.
Which is not the weight that they were assuming from the bag. I remember going like, did they really? Like, I don't think that required that much noise.
Unless he had a chef's knife and 3 12-pound bowling balls in that bag.
The weight differential does not match in this show. Exactly.
Right.
I was confused about that too.
And he holds the knife and he goes, hey, I did my best. I tried to keep you safe. And he doesn't just like stab himself once. It's like this like spray,
right?
That keeps. You mentioned before with the watermelon. It's like the Gallagher of deaths.
It's like I joked around about this on Instagram. By the way, at One More Podcast is that it's like the music video for Jeremy, and it's like all the kids are like Jeremy's broken. Sorry to keep going with that.
So, can I just tell you, this is an embarrassing moment on me, considering I think you and I might have discussed, what's it called when you sing along to a song, but you don't really know the lyrics, but you sing as if you know what the lyrics are?
I don't know. I don't know.
All right, so anyway, I never knew the actual lyrics were Jeremy spoke in class again today.
Yeah.
I was just like, Jeremy spoken, yes, again. I didn't really know what they were saying in the song.
I think it was like I think if you were to ask me, it would be like my best theory would be like Jeremy spoken. That's it. Like that. There was like the period at the end of the sentence.
And this is part of what like I kind of miss about buying physical CD or tapes was, in addition to the fact that they had really great artwork and nice photography at times. But you would listen to these songs that you thought you knew by heart, and then you'd read the CD booklet and read the lyrics and go, oh, that's what they're saying?
Oh, that's what they're saying? Well, that's because everybody was yarling at the time. You know, everybody was like, her, and like there was no way you could tell when someone was singing. So the teacher stabs himself in the neck, and
right.
So we are now at, what is it? That would be like 5 deaths right now in the course of the series so far. So you get rid of the people that are already dead now, that have already died.
Yep.
What are your theories about the Calamity? What are your theories about?
I think Mai Mizaki makes the most sense,
right,
as the dead person. That'd be pretty obvious, but I think it makes the most sense. I mean, they're trying to spend all this time humanizing her,
right?
So maybe that's a fake ploy to get you around to it. I keep thinking that his aunt Reiko is going to play this much larger role. So here's a little bit more about the Calamity and the Charm that we haven't discussed with you guys. The first class, the 1983 class, 26 years before that this happened in, was Koichi's mother's class.
Yeah, so
Now, Koichi's mother died 15 years later, or died 15 years ago when he was born, so she was out of school. Technically, she survived the class, but they also allude to these moments where the person who died in 1996 had actually been a student in 1993, but then they died in 96 and they were taken off the rolls. So there's a lot of time shifting. I'm not quite sure what to think.
Right, exactly. I think for me, there's they make a Sakigabara an important piece of it, which I think is one of those things that like I want to know what his jam is in comparison to everything else. Like, why is he the center of this thing? Really, if you think about it, like really the main person should be like I forgot her name. It's the I almost said like Shikaka from Shikaka. It starts with Aka. I know that. But Akazawa. She's the countermeasure. So I think she should be the main center of the story because she's trying to figure it out. She actually actively is trying to stop this thing from happening.
And
as
wouldn't
opposed
it be
to
crazy if it was her?
Right. And like Sakigabar is like the mindless doofus that's just like meandering his way through it. And
that's a male protagonist.
Right, exactly. So I mean, there's a lot to it unravel. Those are very sound theories. I think I could have done without all the dolls. That's another thing that I want to do because I think dolls are creepy in general, but like dolls that are like attached to each other with like big pink nipples and like no arms is like take it like it's like supersizing your McDonald's meal. It's like too extra creepy more than it needs to be. And so like just looking at all the dolls in the show, I could have gone without, but
yep,
what can you do? So, and also the mom leaves like a dead doll that represents a dead daughter, and that's also really creepy as well. And like,
the child was born stillborn? Well, that's another thing. The mother has two children, Mei Misaka and the stillborn daughter. And she makes a doll to represent what the stillborn daughter would be if she grew up to be a teenager. And yet Mei keeps caressing this doll and saying it's half her. And it's half her. So is there something about the spirit of her sister? I don't know. I
don't know. There's
a loose string on a yarn ball.
This show does, like, now that I know the solution to it, it does present a lot of the clues up front. Like you don't miss anything. You just have to really be paying attention and thinking the whole time, which you wouldn't do normally with a horror show like this.
So you're saying when I get to the solution, I'll say everything was there for me to know it was fair play?
Right. It was fair play. You will know everything that was before it. I think it's satisfying. I also think that the end has some a lot of it ramps up the deaths, but it also brings up old stories of death, and the way these kids die, I think, are hysterical. This is not the class that's currently happening, but they're showing another class that went to a shrine, and then they're all dying on the way down because rain starts. So and it's imagine all the kids in the class were the dumb girl with the umbrella. One is just and it just runs down the hill and falls up the mountain. No one gets struck by lightning.
Then the Yomiyama thing is not even true.
Right. Yeah. It's dumb. It's really dumb. So there's a lot of ways people die that are actually kind of funny in the show, and I try not to laugh, but they just do.
It's animation.
It's animation, so you can get over it. And maybe we'll do a review afterwards to see how maybe we'll do an after show mini-sode to talk about what you thought about the solution. But so you said you were going to keep watching it.
Yep.
You said you kind of had fun with it, so I think now it's time to give the folks out there the Weeb and Noob score. For those of you who haven't really watched this show before or watched what we do here, the Weeb and Noob score signifies not that it's good or bad, but that what priority is it for you to watch, whether it's culturally, whether it's by genre, whether it's by its quality or quantity. How soon should you watch this over other ones? How should you prioritize it? A higher score doesn't mean it's good or bad. It just basically means that this represents a really good side of anime. You should go watch it if you're new or a person, a fan. You should have watched this already. If it's a lower score, it means it's a dime a dozen. You could watch any other anime. It's basically either hard to watch, too complicated, stupid. It's got those things. But that doesn't mean you shouldn't watch it. We don't want to keep anybody from watching anything. We want people to really just prioritize it in their head.
They might like it more than we do.
Right, exactly. Because once again, we're two guys. We're not the entire, opinion of the world out there. So my score, I give this show, as in all the horror anime that I've watched and how the internet treats it, I'm going to give it an 8. And I say that because, yes, this is a good introduction to horror anime. It's not too scary, so go for it. It's short, so you can get through it pretty quickly. And I found myself being annoyed for the first 4 episodes and then getting really invested in it because of how interesting the mystery was. So
I think the finite length of it is a good thing.
Is a good thing, definitely. This show couldn't go
you
wrong.
have a compact amount of time in which to tell your story. Whereas, you see shows that just drag on years longer than they should, particularly mystery shows. And just start repeating the same thing over and over again. So just give you a chance to be original and fun.
I would say the big problem I had with it was pacing. You are going to be what am I watching for the first 3 or 4 episodes?
I'm 8 episodes in, and outside of a few key deaths, it's really like I'm watching, but it's really nothing like crazy is happening. And they've had a few moments where they try and give you that chill up the spine where you go, oh, whoa. But I don't think they're like landing as well as they could. And with that in mind, I'm going to give it a 7.5.
Okay, that's not so bad. Yeah.
Right. No, I don't think it's bad. Like you, the pacing is an issue for me.
Yeah.
I do think that in an effort to misdirect people, they're perhaps going a bit too far. Look, I don't want it to be laid out simply in front of me so that I guess immediately.
Right.
But if it's someone that I didn't even mention, some side character that I haven't even like thought of, then, you know, I just pounded 8 episodes in 2 days. I should have a fair grasp of who it might be.
Right, exactly. And I think for me, it's like the logic. You have to go into it knowing it's a mystery anime first. So go into it and pay attention as a detective anime. Don't go in as I'm going here to get scared, because you're not going to get scared. What I would also say is suspend your disbelief in all the crazy logic loops that it makes, because it has a lot. The logic loops in this show are ridiculous, and there's a lot about the ending that it still pissed me off, and I think that would still annoys me, but that's for another show for another time. So, but that's not a bad score for a show that like is as spooky as this. And you and I aren't really horror fans either.
No. I do think, you know, someone who's into horror might give it a much higher score because that's just the genre that they vibe on. You know,
if you like creepy things, this is definitely up your alley. Yeah. Definitely up your alley.
Yeah, if you like dolls missing appendages, like this is boner-tastic.
With bright colored nipples, then you're gonna love this show.
Apparently that did not stick out to me.
It stuck out to me, and it made me very unsettled. And so I'm gonna have thoughts about that tonight. The nipples. So, you know, we hope, Garrett, you have a satisfying ending with this, but really, it's not just you guys. It's just as important to hear your thoughts. Is another one of those shows that is quintessential horror watching or detective watching? Is it something that really sparks your curiosity, something very different than what you have? Or is it really slow? Is it too weird? Is the logic hard to get past? Let us know in the comments below, because we really want to continue this conversation. Definitely do that on our Twitter page at Weeb_new, or you can find us on the Instagram and at Wanwa Podcast. Also follow us on everywhere your podcasts are found at anchor.fm/Wanwa Podcast. Give us a 5-star review if you can. But before we end, Garrett, what are your final thoughts here on the show Another?
If ever in real life you find that a series of students continue to be murdered at your local high school, change districts.
Yeah. There's a lot of simple solutions to this thing that keep you from dying, and we hope you find that today, folks. So Garrett and I are going to be joining our class, scratching Who Is Dead into our desks, putting on our eye patches, and visiting spooky doll houses. All in all, just to wish you guys a great. See you next week.
Take care, y'all.
You know what's under this eye patch? Just a normal eye. Please just click the subscribe button anyway.
Do you want to avoid a creepy and unexpected cruel death? Go to the comments below and let us know what we should watch next.